You're listening to Up1Notch, a podcast where I explore the tech business world. My name is Mohammad Aoun, and I'm a growth accelerator for tech companies looking to scale their businesses. I'm sitting down with software industry leaders, startup founders, and tech experts. Tune in to hear about the latest and greatest from the tech world. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Up1Notch podcast, where we interview software development leaders, startup founders, etc., and talk about technology. Today, my guest is Kat Stam. Kat, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Thank you so much for taking the time for this podcast, and I hope that we can cover some of the technical terms that we keep on hearing and take it forward from there. So, Kat, can you? I know that you have. I noticed that you mentioned on your profile and everything that you help non-technical people land a coding job. That was really a catching line for me. I mean, obviously, everybody's talking about, let's say, you can become a remote freelancer and work from anywhere of the world if you're working in the IT industry and you get a remote job. So a lot of people are interested in working remotely and all of these, specifically after COVID and everything, right? This trend is becoming more and more common. So if you can just start off by introducing a little bit more about your background, about this whole idea about helping people. I know that you work in data science field, so you're helping people kind of land technical jobs along with your company idea as well, Cosmic Pics. That would be great.
Yeah. Um, Thanks for this. So, as a background, I studied computer science, and then for my master's, I went into artificial intelligence. This was some 14 years ago, and I have been working in the field since then. I was very heavily invested in artificial intelligence until maybe 5 years into my professional life. I discovered that I would like to emphasize more on the impact of my work rather than the sexy technologies that I use. So I moved into data science, which sometimes is not as exciting. Sometimes I have worked with some data sets that are like, meh, but the impact of the findings that we discovered was really, wow, it was amazing. So at some point, I discovered that I'm also very good at teaching and explaining difficult concepts in a way so that people can understand those. Why did I need to become good at this? Because at some point I was struggling a lot, especially when we were dealing with complex algorithms. Sometimes we needed to read scientific papers that could take a couple of hours to get the hang of the algorithms so we can implement it after that. And I discovered that it was not only me who was struggling. So really simplifying the learning process of whether you're just starting with coding or data science or building some complex algorithms is something that was a pain point to many other people. So I started teaching. At the beginning, I was teaching PhD students how to do machine learning and data science, usually within the domain of working with textual data. However, I moved into teaching any kind of people. Recently, it has been mainly people who are starting with coding or starting with data science. And this is a trend that I saw started before the pandemic, but the pandemic really accelerated it. Usually, when people decide to change their careers and move into tech, they go for either web developers or for data scientists. At least these are the two trends that I see constantly all the time. And there's so many workshops and boot camps that you can take to become a web developer, but there are not as many to learn data science or learn basic coding. And this is where I come in. I have been teaching lawyers on how to code, and they did it. I have been teaching some people with academic backgrounds that had a little bit of coding within their curriculums, but did not move to professionally work within the industry, and with some people who have developed some interest in natural sciences during their learning journeys. It might have been in high school or it might have been at university. So we started, or I started seeing that people are really missing the basics. So I simplified the basics. And of course, by teaching people how to code or how to do data science, I also teach how to how to pass a job interview. I have been interviewing for the last 5 years since I became a business owner, and I've interviewed for my own companies, for the companies of my friends, and I'm also hired by big companies to interview their tech people and find the right talent for them. So if I'm tasked to do the job for interviewing, then I know what companies are looking for. And I teach that in my courses as well. Help people really land a job and not just acquire some skills that may help them in the future to get a new job in tech that they want to have. If you want to learn some new tech skills to change your career and get a job in tech, it's also important for you to know how to pass the job interview. And this is something we also teach. Um, how I become the person that can teach this is by coincidence or maybe a fact. I have been hiring people for my companies for the last 5 years. I've helped my friends' companies and startups hire as well. And also big corporations hire me to specifically do the tech interviews for the personnel that they're hiring, so they know they can get the best fit for the job opening that they have. So I know what corporates and smaller companies are looking for candidates, and I teach the candidates on what exactly are the skills that they need to have to pass the interview, and if they don't have them, what is the honest answer that is still going to help them shine in the interview without having this particular knowledge or answer to the question.
Right. So you spoke when you started off about your background. You mentioned that basically there's a lot of courses around how you can get started on the web development side, but not a lot of courses on the data science, right? So isn't that because of the reason that data science essentially is, I mean, or maybe it's not, but what are your thoughts about the difficulty level of, let's say, learning a basic language to start doing web development versus doing data science? Because I mean, even if you want to do data science, essentially, isn't there like a prerequisite that to be able to work on those complex AI algorithms and things like that, you have to have like very good knowledge of Python and Django and all of these languages, which essentially are most commonly used with data science. What are your thoughts about that?
Wow, this is an amazing question, and you're actually the first person who asks me this, but it's very important. So I think that data science and computer science in general are about logic. So you have to cultivate the ability to think logically of the problem and understand how methodically you can solve it. And of course, this applies to all kinds of fields within our world, but it's very important in coding. It's very important in mathematics as well, and in any really natural science field that you're working in. This is something that usually, if you do a computer science degree, you are taught during your first year at university. So you don't really learn that much coding. You learn mathematics, sometimes you learn physics, and you learn the logic that would help you go through problems and find solutions. So to be able to start coding or do data science, you have to learn how to think like a data scientist or like a coder. What I see a lot is that in web development, this type of logic is not that, it's not a it's not really needed. You can become a really good web developer without following strict computer science logic. This is an amazing fact for a lot of people. You don't need to go into the structured way of thinking that computer scientists have. However, as soon as you have it, it helps you a lot in your other work life. And it also opens your mind to being able to solve all kinds of problems. So coding is about creating algorithms that solve problems. Data science is using data to find answers to solve problems. So at the end of the day, you're always thinking about a solution. And of course, you're thinking about the most elegant way to get to that solution. And this is where the logic or the specific type of computer science thinking gets you to. So as soon as you understand it, and it can be explained in easy terms so everyone can understand it without even touching mathematics, then you can become a coder. And then you can decide, hey, do I want to code the logic of the applications, which is something that we call backend? Do I want to start working with the data and analyzing it, which is what we call data science? Do I want to be in charge of the servers and gathering massive amounts of data, which is what data engineers and DevOps people do? But again, all of this is based on the way you think and approach the problems.
So if we, I mean, recalling all the subjects that we used to study in engineering, computer science, and everything, I mean, there's one thing to be able to start thinking logically and rationally. That's partly, I guess, when they teach you all of those courses like computer logic design, gates, and whatnot. A lot of logic comes into play. But to be able to code, essentially, you remember like there's like CS 101 courses, then there's data science, there's data structures, there's operating systems, there's a lot of other subjects, right? So what is the ramp up time? Let's say somebody entirely new to the field of computer science or data science essentially wants to start doing coding. What would you say, like, if, like, for example, you give like 4 hours a day, you work for, let's say, 1 year, you can become a computer scientist and work on in the data science field. What do you think are the ramp up periods for that?
Yeah, an amazing question. So if people studied computer science like me, it would take them 3 to 4 years. But at university, at formal education, they teach us everything, what you mentioned. So it is mathematics, it is logic, it is operating systems, it's databases, it's DevOps, it's different programming languages. But you don't really need that all the time. Usually people, when they graduate, they choose one of those fields or one of these courses that they have taken, and they make a career out of it or within it. So what I recommend to people is to choose one field or one particular course that you could take at university and study there. And this means that you don't need years. Depending on your availability and free time, it might take a year, it might take 3 months, or it might take 6 months. Of course, bear in mind, if you really want to start programming and doing something and be very effective at it, you won't be able to achieve this in 3 months. But we're not talking about being a master of programming or a master of data science. We're talking about getting you the knowledge to be able to get your first job. And your first job can be an intern or a junior, insert title here. It doesn't matter. What matters is to narrow down to one specific area of interest. And if I tell you, hey, I am dreaming of becoming an AI programmer. Okay, but AI is so vast. What do you want to learn exactly? Oh, you know what? I love to learn about optimization algorithms for routing within maps that bring you food. Oh, okay, that is very specific. We can do this and we can get you the basic knowledge within 3 months. And of course, you're not going to be able to land a senior job after that. You will have to work and learn on the job. If I told you about data science, you have to tell me again which field of data science, what kind of data do you want to work with? Do you want to work with tons of numbers? Do you want to work with text? Do you want to work with images? And then if you want to work with images, which images exactly? So we can narrow down and get you the knowledge that is needed to get started. But of course, before we get the basis, which is the logic, and we get the basis of programming. But then it doesn't really take that much
Right.
time as soon as it's
Yeah.
collected properly.
And I think a lot of a lot of people also don't really understand. It's not like, okay, now I'm doing data science all of a sudden. There's huge fields within that. Do you want to kind of pursue computer vision? Do you want to pursue natural language processing, do sentiment analysis? Do you want to like build like robotics process automation solutions, etc., that automate different aspects of businesses? What exactly within the field of data science are you looking to do? So I think that's also part of the basic understanding within the data science. What exactly are we going to pursue, and what interests us really to work in this field?
Yeah, it's about the data you'd like to look at. Or if you don't look at data, if you tell me, hey, I'm really interested in the machine learning algorithms, okay, sure, let's start with the simplest one. As soon as you understand this,
Right.
we go for the second most simple, and after that, the third one, and then the fourth one. And at some point, you have an arsenal of 20 machine learning algorithms that you know very well. You know in which use cases to use them. And you can go into a team and say, hey, you know what, for this problem with this type of data, we need to use this algorithm. Or sometimes you say,
Absolutely.
no, machine learning is not good for this problem. Let's find another solution.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for your time. And thank you for taking the time for this podcast. It was really beneficial having you on the episode. And hopefully, people can understand what it really looks like, the journey from becoming a non technical person and kind of pursuing a technical career, and specifically data science.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. And yeah, let's help more people get a job in data science. But getting a job in data science does not mean that you stay in the field. But it's good to try if this is something that really excites you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you.